Hello, I'm Jonathan Burnham, aka Kalos. On Xbox, you find me under SLR Kalos. The welcome to my channel of low production quality. I'm doing my best, but I wanted to share with you today a race I had in featured multiplayer. So I had a very good qualifier series with a bit of luck. I won all three races. Haven't won a race since, but it ended up putting me with a really high rating. So we'll get to see a little bit of what the racing quality is like at a supposedly high rating. It's going to take some time. I don't like the way Forza, gives you such a high rating out of the qualifier series if you're doing really well. I feel like you should have to earn that. I am not at the start of this race. I was at 848, 45 out of 5,000. I don't believe my skill rating is that high. But I did want to share with you what it's like to race a multiplayer with a wheel. Uh, I will include a link to my video with my settings. I have made some adjustments to them. So I'll actually include my settings in the description. So if you want to see what I'm using, I find it works really well for me. All right, that being said, this race was interesting. I started out second and finished second. It was a little more exciting. That tire strategy came into play and almost cost me quite a bit. So I'll get into that tire strategy when we get into the race. So without further ado, let's go to the race in question. See you in a moment. All right, here at Road America, I am in the Ford GTE. Doesn't seem to be a popular car on the grid. Starting in third place, I believe I had a 2:07.7 as my qualifying time. The gentleman in front of me in the Viper in second had a 2:06.3, I believe. So yeah, he's a good bit faster than me. And then the guy in front of him had a 2:04.7. I'm not even sure that's possible. And he kind of at the start of this race, as you see, he kind of let's start the video, but he goes off to the side of track. So I think he realized it too. But here we go. This is the intermission point where you're checking out. You can check out what tires other people are starting on, how much fuel load they've got. You can see I'm starting on the softs. That's the guy in first. He pulls off to the side and doesn't even finish the race. So I think he was a glitch time. But I'm starting on the softs and the guy in front of me is starting on mediums. My thought was I'm going to start on softs for 3 laps. I had tested. I knew they lasted about 3 laps and then go to the mediums. I assumed in this race everybody would be pitting unless they were on the hard tires. As this race goes along, you will see I was wrong. And having to pit definitely created me a lot of problems. So, without further ado, let's kind of push this forward a little bit. Get to the starting point. So we're getting ready to start the race. Here we go. You have that guy in front of me. Like I said, he's just, you see when we start, he just pulls off to the left into the grass. So something weird was going on there. So Rolton's, the guy in front of me, is now the leader. You'll notice I get swamped. I am using basically the base tune. Well, I don't have a ton of straight. Okay, they go off to the left, and at this point, I think I'm clear. I'm like, oh, my tire strategy is going to work. I'm in first place. I get a chance to run away with the soft tires. You're going to see here in a moment how wrong I was. The Rolton's in the Viper behind me is in my draft, so I figure he's going to come up beside me, but you can see he just starts. He is flying. And I learned that people are using low aerodynamic tunes in this race, and I am giving up a lot on straight line speed. He squeezes me down there, ends up being contact. I move over to give him space, but he's still beside me. You can see the proximity arrow. So I give him space around the outside, and man, you got to give this guy credit. He held it with medium tires around the outside on me. So now I'm like, oh crap. My strategy's kind of backfiring. Now, but I'm like, you know what? This guy's pretty fast. Even with medium tires, he's probably as fast as me. I'll continue to try and follow him. You can see behind us that those guys have fallen off. And it's at this point when I realize he's struggling on the carousel that I'm like, oh boy. Yeah, he's going to slow me down. in his draft, we'll go through the kinker, had to lift a bit. There seems to be a bit of dirty air, because I've definitely, when I'm following somebody, struggle to take corners as fast as I know. But at this point, I can hang with him on a straight line behind him, but you can see I'm just not gaining on him. So I'm figuring this is going to be a mess. But I'm like, so I try to make a move. I'm really trying to get past him here, but you know, trying to be safe. At this point, we'd already had a couple of collisions, no penalties. Maybe a bit of fair play, but you know, we're trying to play it safe here too. So at this point, I'm like, I know I'm much faster through the corners than him. I need a bit of space to breathe, because he's slowing me down and making me use up my soft tires at a much slower pace than I can go. And I'm desperately trying, so I'm gonna go to the inside and park it on the apex here. I know that's gonna, he holds it around the outside again. Man, gotta give this guy credit. I know he's faster than me, but you're gonna see right here again, he just comes up and goes right. I don't know if he was on the base tune and the Viper's just fast in a straight line, or if he had a tuning. I'll talk about that a little later. So again, I'm trying to hold my position, give him space, but I'm kind of making him hit the rumble strips, and at this point he falls off. I don't know if he backed out, but at this point I'm a bit in the clear with a bunch of hard corners coming up, and I'm going to use that to my advantage to try and gain some distance from me and him. And at this point, I know I got to put in some good tires. Now, he's on the mediums. I'm assuming at this point he is going to pit for softs. That doesn't end up being the case. He actually runs the whole race on medium tires. And he must be good on tire wear, because I had expected mediums to really start falling off significantly on lap 5 and 7. The softs definitely fall off around lap 3, the end of lap 3, and you'll kind of see that here on mine. I almost wrecked the car through the kink. So since we got a bit of breathing space, definitely tunes make a difference. Like I was saying, I am in the baseline tune, and I made a couple minor tweaks to the aero, where I raised the front and lowered a little so I get rotation through the carousel and through the kink, just to make sure, you know, I was not understeering. The base tunes tend to understeer, at least the base tune on the Ford GT tends to understeer quite a bit. At this point, you can look at Roltons has fallen about 1.9 seconds behind me. Now you can see Fromy has a 4-second penalty, and off to the right, every time someone gets a penalty, it'll kind of show it. A draft definitely makes a difference in this. You can feel the difference, like if you're in light cars when you're in a draft. So it's much different than Forza 7, where the draft, not only did you not catch up, you pushed the guy in front of you, he went faster. But at this point, I am literally just trying to put in the fastest lap that I can. I'm not, this is supposedly a high rated lobby. For the qualifier series, I had 48, 80 something. I had a horrible first race in the wet. Here at Road America, wet tires only last like 3 laps. And it was a mess. So the quality of driving, I made a serious mistake that cost me a ton of safety rating. I ended up with a 4-second penalty, and at the end of the race, my safety rating had fallen all the way from S to B, back up to an A rating. I'm not entirely sure how they determine it. They seem to be keeping it a bit under wraps. I suspect that it's not just the penalty system, but that every time you have a collision, that you get assigned some sort of mark, even if you're not at fault. I imagine it might be similar to iRacing, based on the severity of contact. It'll give you a 1x or a 2x or a 4x. That will tell you. They just don't show that to you, as I think people would get upset if they knew something wasn't their fault, was affecting their safety rating. But at this point, you can see I'm coming into the pits. My tires have fallen off. They're in the yellow. right towards the end of the lap, and immediately when they hit yellow, they started falling off. I felt it right away. It definitely slowed my lap time down. I was on pace for like a 207, and then I ended up get high 207 and ended up getting like a 208.5. You can see that changing tires doesn't take long, but the pit itself, it makes you drive the whole way at a speed pit limit, so it definitely takes you a good bit of time. Coming up here, coming out of the pits, I'm making sure to stay to the right within the lines. You get control as you hit this point, and immediately I get two guys in front of me. I've fallen all the way from second place to 12th, and I'm realizing, oh man, I may have made a mistake. The splits for how fast people were kind of all over the place. I came out right behind two guys that are fighting. So already I know that's going to slow me down a ton. If I'm going to have, because even if they had similar pace, fighting like that's going to slow them down. So my goal, I'm on medium tires now, is to try and get by safely. I knew my braking point. I knew I could pick it on the apex. Again, he squeezed me really hard and just goes around the outside. So I'm like, okay, back out, try to be patient. He has a little bit of a moment there, and I try to take it up the inside. I'm careful, probably a little too careful going through here, and you can see, again, he just holds it around the outside. Props on him for, giving me space. And I realized I was getting way too aggressive there and just backed out. But I definitely want him in my mirror, him to see me in his mirrors and know that I'm there. Coming around the carousel, this is one of those points where the medium tires, I should be able to take this flat. And I try, and immediately realized I was understeering. So I'm assuming that was dirty air. Either that, I just didn't turn hard enough. So again, there was a guy off to the right, and I'm behind, Guardian of Chaos. That's who I'm behind. He's got 2.25 second penalty, so that already makes me a bit concerned about the sketchiness of his driving. So at this point, I thought about diving up the inside, backed out. It kind of loses it, and that really, oh my gosh, I'm getting so frustrated because now I'm stuck behind both of them again. Really frustrating. However, I use this guy's draft. He's got quite a bit of straight line speed, and that gives me just enough a boost to get alongside of Guardian. Cuban Hashman, that's who this guy is. Gives me just enough, and then I'm going to come around the outside. This is where it gets frustrating. I'm going to try and hang in around the outside. Thought I gave him enough space, but you can see even if I didn't, even if I'd been outside a little more, he missed his braking point. I don't think he did it on purpose. At the time I was really upset. He definitely hit me, and we both lost a ton of speed. Guardian of Chaos got by both of us, and at this point I'm trying not to rage. I'm like, okay, this is just what happens with the strategy. You can see based on people pitting, I'm up to 5th already. So be patient. And at this point, you get in, he's too aggressive, knocks both of them out of the way, and through I go. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. Now remember, I'm on medium tires. Rolton started on medium tires. He's in first. I'm 30 seconds behind. At this point, we are on lap 5. I'm assuming towards the end of this lap, or lap 6, that his time's going to start to fall off. Oh my gosh. And you're going to see, no, it really, really doesn't. Like I said a bit earlier, the Ford GT doesn't seem to be a popular car in this. The Audi is very much so, but then again, it comes with the race day car pack. But then again, so does the NSX GT3, and I haven't seen too many of those. I went out ahead and bought the Ford GT. I just love it. And honestly, I haven't felt like I've been at a disadvantage from it. I tested a tune from AMS Carver. That's a high-speed tune, and I tested around this track in Rivals compared to my baseline tune. I gained 1.2 seconds. 1.1, 1.2 seconds. Daniel Fergs, who's ahead of me, again, he hasn't pitted yet either. And I'm going to assume he was on medium tires as well. So apparently the medium tires last quite a bit longer. I mean, I'm watching, as you can see, my tire wear. I'm like, okay, this is only my third lap on the mediums, and I can already see they're grading pretty fast. So I don't know if maybe I wasn't, especially the fronts. With this baseline tune, the fronts tend to go off pretty quickly in comparison to the rears. Another thing I noticed too is it tends to wear them out evenly, unless you're spinning the tire on one side through the differential. They seem to wear evenly, which, you know, it's a game. It's not the most realistic. It's not the most realistic, but it's definitely a lot of fun. But yeah, at this point, I'm just trying to put in the best laps I can, and hopefully, I'm already on lap 6. I'm hoping these guys really drop off. And it just doesn't look like it's happening. So I started third. I'm like, okay, at this point, I'm like, I'm probably, unless something major happens on the last lap, yeah, I'm probably going to end up finishing third. This is the point where I'm supposed to keep talking, right, and have lots of things to talk about. I will say, I'm finding multiplayer a lot of fun. I'm going to be more interested to see what happens as more people start playing it, and then as more people are playing it, hopefully the safety and rating system will sort itself out. I do feel like the penalty system's a little lenient, probably because it's difficult sometimes to assign who, but I also think it keeps track of any off track and any collisions. I could be wrong on this, but I believe it keeps track of them even if no penalties assigned. So it's very possible that that still plays into your safety rating.
Final lap. You got this.
So yeah, after that disaster of a wet race, oh my gosh, I tried to pit once, and the wets fall off really fast. I mean, I lost like 20-30 seconds on the lap just because of how difficult it was in the rain with dead wets. It doesn't really penalize the slicks like you think it would. So like if I'm playing Automobilista 2 and I'm on slicks going into the rain, oh my gosh, it's a nightmare. You're gonna lose so much time in Automobilista 2 in the wet on the slicks, whereas this one you tend to only lose like a couple seconds. You're definitely, even the softs are definitely slower than the wets by a pretty significant margin, but you know, maybe a couple 2 or 3 seconds a lap, or 4 seconds it was for me. So at this point, I see that Daniel Fergs is starting to fall off. Where it's really starting to affect him, and it's starting to affect Roltons as well. So I'm hoping like disaster strikes him. At this point, we're already in lap 7, pretty much over, coming up to the kink. Did I take this one flat out? No, I didn't lift for this. And I see him. Daniel Fergs has had a moment, and he is way off the pace, and I am gaining fast. And this could be disaster too. It's very possible I mess up here. One of us, or if he like defends really hard, then both of us could get taken out. Coming across in final turn, coming up on the last lap, he goes wide, and I see my moment. I dive up the inside, hit the gas, and off I go. Oh, thank goodness. So hats off to Roltons. He did slow down. The gap ended up being at 21 seconds. Was able to come back from second in a race that was much more exciting than I thought it would be. I really did feel that this race was going to be boring unless there was disaster at the start. And instead, tire strategy really played a pretty big role in it. You can see Fromy had a 207, so he was pretty fast, but got himself in trouble. And I can tell you right now that penalty is going to affect the safety rating significantly. So if he was an S-Class driver, he's not going to be anymore. So looking at this, you had Roltons in first. Daniel Fergs gained 4 places using the same strategy, mediums for the whole race. We know Fromy took a pit stop. But yeah, no, it turned out to be a much more exciting race than I anticipated. Um, let me go over here. I can.
Well done.
There we go. I go down. Turbo FM was the guy originally had it, and he DNF'd. So he pulled off to the side and quit out of the race. You can see. Let's kind of go back to that just a little bit. Oh yeah! I finished second. I kind of like this, showing off the cars more than showing off the people. There we go, Daniel Fergs. I skipped out of it. Go back a little bit. So you can see, yeah, not many four. There was only 2 Ford GTs, Dodge Viper.
Well done.
A lot of.
We finished P2.
Somebody was in the Ultima. It doesn't seem to be that competitive. I thought I saw somebody, yeah, in the Ford Falcon. But I've seen the C8s. I've had a few races. I haven't won one since. I've had a couple seconds and 6th and 7th. And then, so without further ado, let's check out my rating. So there you have it. Coming out of that race, I had an A safety rating and a 4903. I went into the race with an A safety rating. I came out of it with an A safety rating. It would be nice to know. You can't see this until you get out of the race. If the race had caused my safety rating to go up and down. Like I said, it's not enough to get back up to S, so it definitely seems like it's going to make you earn an S rating, which is a good thing. I hope that as more people are playing multiplayer, it'll really start to sort out the difference in good, or not just good, but the safe from the unsafe drivers. And then for splits, I'm sorry, I am not a 4903 out of 5,000 rated player. Like I said, the qualifier, I lost 60 rating on that wet race where I ended up finishing, I believe, 8th or 6th. I think I ended up finishing 8th in that race. And I only lost, I went from 48.86 to like 48.20 or 48.0, something like that. So, I mean, you don't tend to lose, I guess, rating. I mean, I finished 6th or 8th and ended up losing quite a bit of rating. So I think we'll see more as better drivers and you get better splits. That'll definitely, my rating will start dropping off, and it'll be a challenge to keep the safety rating because it starts with everybody close and tight together. It is unlike Gran Turismo 7 where they start you in a line with a space in between you. Turn one's going to be really chaotic, and I think even in high safety rated lobbies, you're still going to have some chaos at the start. That was the race, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any suggestions, I make them in the comments. If you'd rather see my ugly mug when I do these, then I will definitely keep that. I'll try to maybe do some recordings where I'm actually talking while racing, but I'll tell you right now, in these competitive lobbies, it takes a lot of concentration for me. I'm not that good. I think I'm pretty good, and like I said, and I think I'll include a link to my wheel settings guide and my wheel settings in the description. So, without further ado, you guys have a good day, and thank you for watching.